Let's get started. A couple of housekeeping items, before we obviously get going. Uh, what you see, what I'll put in the chat in a second is the links to both LeanData's website as well as Boomerang's website. If you don't know us, take a look. And happy to, again, if you want to learn more about the product, please take us a demo and our team will get in touch with you. And a couple of icebreakers I want to quickly talk about. Last week was Halloween, and I come from India, as you can see, I guess. In Diwali, this year, Halloween and Diwali was on the same date, and I was asking my wife, when we dress up for Diwali, does it look like we're in Halloween costume? Would love for everyone to chime in the comment if you agree to that. I'll take that notes back to my wife. And on a more serious note, obviously this webinar is about ABM and buying group go-to-market motion. Love everyone to talk a little bit about, in one line, especially the guests who are attending this webinar, what's your ABM budget, and in one line, how do you define your ABM or buying group go-to-market motion? So yeah, that'll be great. And then, as we get started, I'll do a quick intro of myself, and then Bruno, Ivan, I'll let you also introduce yourself. Again, my name is Shankar Ganapathy. I go by Shanks, one of the co-founders of Boomerang. Prior to starting Boomerang, I was at a company called Mindtickle, a sales enablement vendor. Saw the journey from pre-revenue to 40 million, both from marketing and sales context. And in the journey, really, we invested a lot into ABM programs, enterprise sales programs, and a lot of what we learned is at the core of what we're building here at Boomerang. We've been in business for a little over a year with Boomerang, and working with some amazing customers around champion tracking, buying group marketing, and super excited to be speaking with Bruno and Ivan on this webinar. With that, Ivan, maybe I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we can go to Bruno.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. Evan Liang, co-founder and CEO at LeanData. The company's actually been around for 10 plus years now, and we really help sales and marketing teams really confidently execute on their go-to-market plans. So we are known for our matching and routing, in which we kind of can take whatever go-to-market motion you're thinking about and turn it into an executable plan, so that you're ensuring that the right leads are getting to the right place. Our story here around buying groups starts with, actually, when we first started 10 plus years ago. It was kind of the nascent early days of account-based marketing. We were actually one of the early vendors in account-based marketing, and really, because of our matching technology around lead to account matching, we really helped folks really get set up, and was helped a lot of early pioneers around ABM. Our excitement around buying groups is we are seeing some of our early adopter customers starting to adopt and move from ABM to buying groups, or also we see larger enterprises who never really adopted ABM also going to buying groups. And so we're really excited to see this new motion. We think it's a natural evolution. It's much more targeted than just being at the account level. And so we're excited to kind of spread the word, because we want to help our clients be successful around their go-to-markets. And we've been fortunate to work with a lot of kind of the leading enterprises out there. And so that's our contribution back to the community. So.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Ivan. Bruno, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Shankar, for the opportunity to speak today. So hi, everyone. My name is Bruno Trimouille. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer. I've had pretty deep experience as head of marketing in companies of different size and different profile. I'm here to relate the experience I had at Litera, which is in the B2B legal tech space. So think about the legal industry, think about a number of capabilities and software offering that are delivered to empower not just the lawyers, but everyone around the lawyers, to essentially streamline processes and overall amplify impact. So it's a suite of tools, it's a suite of capabilities, and even though it's in a very well-boxed industry, buying in a legal firm or buying in legal department of companies is a team sport. So, the legal tech space is not immune to ABM buying group as well. And I would say, for the kicker, when Evan said he partnered with some of the pioneer, I spent to partner with Evan and LeanData and the team back in 2007. And that was our first foray from a marketing standpoint into a full-on ABM motion. And actually, the company I was working for did a full pivot from going up and down market to being just account-based driven after our acquisition by the private equity. The leaders asked us to really focus on specific target accounts, and we defined about 4,500 of them across US and Europe. And we partnered with LeanData to kind of really refocus our demand generation, which was, again, enterprise and mid-market and different kind of profile to an account-based motion. And in that account-based motion, we had to crack the code on the buying group. So first experience goes back way back then, but funny enough, started with LeanData.
Oh, fantastic introduction, Bruno. Thank you for that. This is a really good segue for us to get into the first topic of discussion. A lot of when we actually go to market, talk to companies, a lot of leaders ask us, "What is buying group go to market motion?" And I come from a sales background. I'm used to in the past marketing teams throwing an intent signal through the across the fence at the expectation that me or my team or my BDR team is following up with them. And just curious, how do you define buying group marketing, and why is that the need for the other? Maybe Bruno, we can start with you, especially the most recent experience at LeanData.
So it's interesting that you talk about signals, because for us that's where it all started. Is kind of really having a way to not just look at people, but looking at the whole picture with the account view, right? Being able to roll up the individuals, which, by the way, may be lead, maybe contacts, but not necessarily mapped to the account. So building that holistic view and being able to see the dynamic at the account level was very much paramount. It was paramount again a few companies ago, back in 2007, and it was paramount at Litera as well. And then we realized that, look, as much as it is great to have MQLs, and MQL are still alive, look, we're still going to need to manage them and process them and engaging. We understand that there's the whole picture about the account. So we look at MQL scoring and MQL dynamics, but we look at the roll-up at the whole account level, because sometimes, a tree is actually hiding the forest. And I have some examples where I could see at a company level that there was an engagement across a number of individuals, anywhere sometimes between 7 to 8. But the fun fact was maybe just one out of those 8 with MQL. And everybody else was sort of touch and go, maybe checking in on the webinar and then downloading something else, but not going above the waterline. And so that's when, again, back in the days, but also at Litera, we uncovered the power of rolling up leads and contacts behind the account. Now, it's sort of the reactive motion, right? But then there's a proactive motion. As you look at the patterns, then you may find, hey, we need at least 5 people. They need to be of such profile. Then you get into the proactive motion, where once you get a motion going on a specific account, you can preemptively say, oh, there are gaps. There are gaps in engagement. There may be gaps in the type and profile of people you engage. And then it becomes super powerful and proactive. And this is when the magic sort of happens. So first step is I would say, reactive mode. I think opening the aperture from MQL to accounts, seeing the big picture, analyzing the pattern, and then mapping that back to your playbook and preemptively look at the level of engagement, look at the type of people, so that the next opportunity in the same account will go faster, better, and have a greater impact.
Yeah. So I would say, like, buying groups is all about meeting your buyer and how they want to buy. So in B2B, we all know that it's not about a single individual. Rarely that, unless it's a really SMB product that's buying the product, and it's not the entire companies involved. Buying groups is it's on average, I know it's like 7 to 12 folks are involved in a buying committee. Buying groups is just about managing your go-to-market motion to the needs of that buying committee. And so it's the thing that, hey, the MQL is still valuable, but the MQL is not enough, right? Because if there's 7 to 12 people involved, right, you have to understand and deliver a good experience to all those other folks, not just the first person who comes in and hits MQL status. And so it's the understanding as an industry that we have to move beyond MQLs And then also account-based is just, hey, just because we go into a target account company, that's not enough, right? Oftentimes many people have multi-product companies. Both Bruno and I have multi-product companies. So it's like we want to sell to multiple folks. There's different folks that are involved. There's different share of wallet and all those other things. And so again, the buying group is the natural evolution of saying, hey, there are multiple buying centers within a big company and not just a target account. So that's how I kind of define it, and why it's evolved is because some of those other motions were helpful, but not enough.
Very cool. Very cool. One of our other customers calls it multi-threading in marketing, right? Like, hey, we all are known for helping driving accountability with sales. What about marketing, right? And it's not about just throwing a lead across the fence. Absolutely. Very cool. And so again, I know this is conceptually brilliant, right? I think makes a lot of sense. We should talk to multiple people. Decisions are made by committee, right? What are some of the tactics, or what are things that leaders can do today, especially in marketing and sales teams, that can drive buying group go to market motion? And maybe Ivan, we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, so it's not an easy transformation, because I think folks have been so used to just following up on one lead, and some of the problems that happen there. One of my customers, Palo Alto Networks, like to talk about this second lead syndrome, right? So if you're really all focused on that single MQL, when that second lead comes in, we'll have SDR or sales teams just ignore it. They already have their MQL. They're not compensated for that. But what if that's the decision maker, the guy's boss? You don't want to just throw that lead away. You need to be able to figure out how to react to that. Now, to just solve second lead syndrome, it's not just as simple as like, hey, tell the SDR follow. It has impacts on culture. It has impact on your sales process, compensation, right? Well, do they get compensated for that second lead? How do you think about that? Because incentives really motivate a lot of folks in the sales and marketing side. So the move to buying groups is much more than just it's much more than just going out and buying a solution. It is really transformation around people, process, and technology. The fortunate part is I think a lot of those areas have matured enough to enable it, and there are folks who are leading there, and it is certainly possible. And I think the end result is a much better buying experience. But there are a lot of challenges along every single step of the way as you make kind of that transformation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree with Evan. I would say from a marketing leader perspective, there's indeed the tools and the processes 100% in sync. It also, frankly, forced us to look at the way the messaging, the positioning, was put together. And even though, again, we were very focused on a given industry, and you can assume, well, everybody speaks the same language. Well, maybe not. So we started the journey with a little bit of a shift from, the what to the why, more the value behind the scene and the differentiative, component. I really like the why, the how, the what framework always starts with the why, and then go into the how, and the what, will come together. And then we realized, look, it is good. It sort of shifts the conversation, but sometimes it's not enough. Let me take a pragmatic example. Some of our solution in the legal space are very much, approved, and sometimes the effort may be led by an IT leader. But at the same time, you're talking to end users in finance, or you may be talking to end user who are, corporate legal representative, and they care less about software. They care about, collaboration on document and redlining, and bringing the deal to a close. And so you're going to need to look at the lens of your product through the angle of the persona, adopt, the value-based approach, but map to a different persona profiles, and go down that path. So we started with first shift, from feature to value, and then second shift was the shift to persona. And as you do that, you'll find yourself starting to craft content, pieces of assets and other marketing tactics that then are enacted and enabled by the products and the offering. But I would say the mentality shift from product to value and from value to persona was pretty much necessary, and was a two-step approach for us, actually.
Very cool. Very cool. And again, with Bruno, we've learned some of the niche use cases, right? For example, what happens when there's a intent signal like a 6QA coming from 6sense?
Yep.
Can we go find past champions who have joined their account or users who joined their account, find warmer paths to go into that? Or what can marketing do when there's a new opportunity created in a target account? Can we proactively map the buying committee, run marketing programs to help the sales teams? There are, absolutely, there are next level tactics that we could be doing to help progress the buying group go to market motions, especially at scale, right?
Yeah, and I think that the ultimate buying groups, and this may sound trite, but it drives more sales and marketing alignment throughout the entire opportunity cycle, not just at the beginning with the handoff. Sales and marketing can work together throughout the whole thing. And this is where the signals become more important, because as you build the buying committee, one of the things that some of the best practices is you want to identify gaps. Say you have 5 personas that you want to have on a single opportunity to get close, you may quickly realize you're missing you're lacking 2 opportunities. So leveraging tools to find other champions, other signals, and bring those in becomes much more interesting. As Bruno says, you might want to become more proactive rather than reactive. Right. And how do you fill those out? So gap analysis, the metrics around that, figuring out what's the ideal buying group size, at which stage you are in your process, those will become much more important and interesting analysis. And then you want to leverage your all the signals and technology available for you to try to drive and actually accelerate those deals.
Yeah.
One of the things, Shankar, I can share is, let's say, again, an account for different reason, whether it's buying signal or a remarkable event, or maybe just the fact that we know we want to trigger an outbound motion because we have a new account executive having some relationship with the account. I mean, it's definitely, as Evan was saying, a team sport. From a marketing standpoint, typically we would kind of divvy it up between both marketing-led, BDR-led, AE-led, and then looking at different swim lanes. So from the marketing-led, we actually had 2 motion. One was really about the air cover. Usually we do that on the net new contacts that just come in. Then we had sort of a mass personalized approach through some, AI-driven email nurturing, I would say. So think about taking your existing email cadence, but because the leads may have previously MQL'd or encountered you at specific events and trade show, they're kind of what I would call lukewarm. They may have expressed interest, maybe MQL in the past, but went by the wayside. For those leads, we had a special swim lane, a special treatment, and that's more of the mass personalized engagement. And then we have the BDR led, the folks that may bubble up as high interest. And then we could have the AE led for the people that already contacted that they know. But sometimes, you don't need those 4 swim lanes running in parallel. But in some accounts, this was truly happening to kind of create this groundswell effect. Everything was obviously supported by different tool with obviously Boomerang and LeanData at the core. But at the end, we were thinking about this almost like, the war room. When an account enters, we kind of meet and decide of those 4 swim lane, who does what, and then we go on for a period of time.
Very good. When there's so much good data and orchestration can do to make buying group motions move forward, right? Fantastic. This actually brings up really interesting question. Again, in our business, we talk to a lot of marketing leaders as well as sales leaders, in some cases even revenue operations leaders. And the question I constantly ask myself is, who ultimately should own buying group go-to-market motion? Obviously, there's a shared accountability that exists, but then what factors should companies determine on who owns this and what's up from the thought process? And Bruno, you've earned the right to do this at multiple companies, right? So what's your sort of learning in terms of who should own this and why they should own this?
So I obviously think marketing has a really big role. I would say who on this, it's definitely marketing led, but as far as the ownership, I've seen different model for companies that are quite mature. I would say when it comes to revenue operations, meaning bringing marketing operations, sales operation, customer success operations together in one team, it could make sense actually to move it there for the command and control approach. But then obviously it's a team sport. Everybody has a play and marketing as what they need to do, etc. So I would say my answer may depend on the maturity of such a revenue operations team. Sometimes they even report to the CFO, not even to the CRO. But if you're in a very mature setup, I would think that the best house for that is over there, because they tend to have the big picture on all the technology, how data flows, not just in the pre-sales, but also again in the customer success and the engagement, which by the way can benefit from an ABM approach as well. But yes, marketing definitely a driver. At Litera, we had marketing in the driver's seat because the sales ops was more focused on some work on Salesforce. So we took the bull by the horn and own it from A to Z. But again, I came to realize that a nice mature RevOps can actually be the best place for that.
Yeah, generally what we've seen is tends to be marketing ops tends to be the driver of a lot of this stuff, but ultimately I think the executive buy-in has to come around alignment around the CMO, and the more the CROs are involved and the sales teams are involved, the more likelihood for success. Now, generally speaking, we aren't really seeing sales initially lead it, partly because they would argue that they've always been doing things this way. The good sales reps have always map their accounts, understand where the buying committees are, and drive it. So this is not that radically new for them, but it is a bigger change, I think, on the marketing side. And sometimes marketing is being brought in, sometimes marketing is driving it. But at the same time, I think generally speaking, it ultimately becomes your sales and marketing alignment. So you need the whole committee. You have to build your own buying group committee in some respects within the organization to kind of drive these initiatives. But Mark Ops tends to be the fulcrum and the center of it all.
Very cool. And it's a good segue to the next topic, which is this. You also said that typically buying group go-to-market motion is a transformation. It's not an overnight, playbook. You have to get people to be aligned and to execute on a playbook. And if marketing ops is going to own this, what are typically the ingredients they need to have in place to build the case, to take it to their executives, right? And what needs to be done to make executives realize there's a good problem to solve and can drive revenue acceleration.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually we do see folks starting off with some sort of small pilot, usually in a small group or a small product area, to try to justify, hey, doing a compare and contrast of if we move to buying groups, what are its impacts on revenue metrics? The most direct one, obviously, that we are seeing is close rates. Close rates go up much higher if you do have a buying group versus a single threaded. You have higher close rates. People were worried that actually sales cycles would elongate if you're sitting around waiting for to add a buying group members, but actually we are seeing a little bit opposite. Sometimes by actually building your buying group committee, you don't run into that last second where the CFO or procurement kills your deal. So you may not elongate your sales cycle. You may be in some cases be able to accelerate sales cycle by having more executive buy-in. But close rates have, I think Forrester is a great analyst firms that have been really pushing the buying groups initiatives out there, and they've seen very high increases in close rates, multiples of what you see compared to your closed loss deals or deals that do not go through the buying group. So I think that's the metric to look at. And but then at the same time, you could do an economic justification based on what you see with close rates around your buying group. What would that impact be if it was built across your whole company? And in many cases, you're talking, depending on the size of companies, significant improvements in new business in both ASP as well as higher close rates. The combination of that two can be a very, very high revenue justification. By the way, I don't also want to forget that we are seeing customers also apply buying groups to their renewals and expansions, and with some success. And so it's not just on the new business side, but also on your existing business side. You can see also improvements, not necessarily in close rates, but in that case is maybe in expansion dollars. Building a bigger buying group committee can allow you to upsell more products, be more successful, and get expansion or a higher retention than what you would see otherwise. So those are generally speaking, higher ASP, higher close rates, or existing NRR are generally where I'm seeing people do economic justification around buying groups.
Absolutely. Very cool. And Bruno, you've obviously gone through this journey very recently as well, right? And especially, in Litera's case, private equity is an unique angle as well. What are some of the ingredients you've seen? Like, how do you justify this transformation, right? And obviously, it's a significant transformation, right? It's not What some of the learnings you've had?
So for us, there were, couple of, I would say, headwinds and couple of, tailwinds actually. On the approach, we indeed, choose a pilot. So we knew that we had a one-to-one ABM one-to-one motion. We knew that we had some larger account segments we wanted to go after. We frankly kind of went in between. I call it the one to few. We choose a few hundreds to thousands of accounts that we really wanted to cater to with the same offering. So it's really lookalike accounts. Think about them more as a cohort. And we wanted to validate a new sales motion. We wanted to validate a new sales stack. And again, a shift from value-based messaging to persona value-based messaging. So it was a sort of a 3-in-1. And the tailwind I had here was the fact that we did reorganize the company, not just the go-to-market team on the sales side, but also the product team and the marketing team on the product marketing and campaign side to fully align with those different personas. So we were not just aligned by product, but we were aligned by persona profile. And for each profile, what are the products that could be relevant? So that was tailwind for us because the mentality, the focus, the whole company was pivoting to that. Now, on the headwind, just to go back to private equity, the shift to buying group was sort of existential, I would say, for marketing. Why? Because when you look at the numbers, so having to do about 20% growth, that's net new bookings, right? We're not talking renewal, but just on the pure net new booking coming from potentially expansion and existing customers, breaking into new buying center, or having new logo. If marketing signs up for 30% of that, which was our goal, you can see that year after year, it becomes just harder and harder. So because of that, and because I was selling in a very defined market, I mean, there's so many legal companies and legal departments, the mastery of the legal group was existential for marketing. If we didn't make the shift, we could not sustain 20% growth, 30% contribution from marketing. The numbers would not just add up and actually work against us. So I would say that approach helped us to not only meet the objective, but even exceed. Some quarters we were at 36% of marketing source bookings, which is a great place to be. But again, it was kind of existential. I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but with those kind of numbers and dynamic and a market that is boxed, you cannot go to really new accounts or a lot of net new accounts. I mean, you just got to get better at selling within a well-defined perimeter.
Very cool. Very interesting. Again, just taking that from the one level deeper, one of our recent customers, a 200 million ARR cybersecurity market leader, they invest tens of millions into demand gen, ABM, field marketing, about 50 BDRs in their team. And when we did a pipeline leak audit of their CRM, especially their named account list, what we found was that about 8 to 10% of the accounts had 0 or 1 contact in their CRM. And as simple as it sounds, like this data is there in one of the data vendors. This data is there on LinkedIn, right? Uh, and on the other end, we have got field marketing teams, doing 1 or 2 roadshows every other week, and they're trying to find the right people to invite to the roadshows. And then most of these contacts are not there in Salesforce or Marketo. What we also found was there are about 180 to 200 high value champion leads that have changed jobs into these accounts, and all CXO level job changes, everyone notes, everyone follows up with them. But the moment it goes to VP or director, which is where typically the champion is, many of the signals are getting missed. And as we looked at the buying group marketing here from a data as infrastructure problem, what we learned was, if you don't even have your contacts there, like what are you doing, right? And and it's not about outbound, it's not about field marketing, it's not about ABM, but all of them feed sort of this data. And again, if you can get the right data and the right triggers, typically you're maximizing the impact of a buying group go to market motion. So again, that was one interesting learning. So very cool. I know we're coming to the end of this session. Anything broadly outside of that we didn't cover, Ivan? Do you want to cover about buying group go-to-market motions that we didn't discuss?
Yeah, I think there's two areas to start with for a lot of folks is this does fundamentally change how you think about your SDRs or your BDRs or MDRs, however you talk about. So that's usually a good starting point for a lot of people to think about that role and how that changes, because that it oftentimes sit at the handoff for it. And the second thing is metrics will change. So you have to think for everything. I think Bruno talked about that. The private equity have pressure around that, but they also we do encourage folks to think about both MQLs and new buying group metrics and running them in parallel. Do not abandon your old metrics, but run them in parallel so you can see the changeover. So the two last bits of advice for if people were looking for places to get started.
That's fantastic.
From my end, I guess I may go into the maybe the trailblazing path, which is, yes, I think we all kind of understand and want to get on the bandwagon for all the things pre-sales. But I really 100% agree with Evan. The post-sales is also a very interesting place. For us at Litera, I can tell you there were 3 scenarios. One, we had several different kind of offering we could sell. So you can imagine when we sold to a head of finance, there's 6 other persona we can sell to. So supporting a shift to new buying center is real and very important. There was the account tune-up. So Shankar, you brought an example. I think you remembered we did a scan of 6,000, I think, account, and we found out that 33% had partial information, 20% of the contact were no longer in the account. So that's half. That's half of my account, which potentially is not marketable if the email happens to be missing. So that's quite high. So doing the constant tune-up and making sure you're looking at that is important, including the job changes. And job changes can go both ways, right? You could have an account where you have a great champion and that champion leaves. Oh my goodness, what are you going to do? Or it could be, oh, there's a new person coming in and he is a former champion. Great, I'm going to double down. It could go both ways. And the last bit, which is super interesting, is bit of a hidden gem, but community sites like G2 and Trust Radius can give you a ton of competitive insight about existing customers. And we could detect that some existing customers were looking at some competition and preemptively, unfold the campaign to kind of make sure we'll get ahead of that. So I just want to give you those 3 tidbits that there is power in the post sales, era, I would say. So don't underestimate that. Even though, pre-sales engagement is always where you start, I think you should come at it with eyes wide open and be ready to open the aperture.
Fantastic advice. You've been brilliant. Thank you both, Bruno, Ivan. There's been fantastic discussion. I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways. I've got a page full of notes here. And we will send the recording offline to anyone who couldn't attend. And once again, thank you for the great tips here, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.